Alright, the Reds, it's Talking Reds from the Anfield Wrap with me, Gareth Roberts, and today I've got James Pearce with me from The Athletic. Thanks for joining us this morning, James. And Klopp's just held a press conference there ahead of Midtjylland, and Kelleher was speaking there as well. Come on to that, but I wanted to get you first on the fans being back in the ground on Sunday. Me and you have spoken before about how strange it's been for you in the press box, sort of, doing your job in essentially an empty ground. How nice was it for you to have fans back in at the weekend?
Yeah, it was absolutely amazing, and it sounds a bit stupid to say it because it was only 2,000 and there was still 52,000 empty seats in there. But yeah, the difference was absolutely huge, and you could sense it, from the moment the players came out to warm up, and Klopp touched upon it himself, didn't he? Said they all had goosebumps as a result because football has been absolutely soulless without fans. I've been one of the privileged few has been still going to all the games, and and I felt bad at times to say it that I haven't particularly enjoyed it because it suddenly rammed home everything you love and really appreciate, especially about following Liverpool everywhere. It's gone because of COVID. So that it was such a big step forward and I think you could see as well in that performance how much of a difference it made to the players because there's no way that Liverpool performed to that level on Sunday in an empty ground. There's no way they're energized to that degree. It was just as Klopp said himself, a perfect night.
Yeah, there was loads of little things, wasn't there, that you just thought that wouldn't have happened if there'd been no fans. So even, sort of when Matip scores his goal and he does that sort of like guttural roar to the Kop. I mean, he's literally doing it to some fans who were screaming back at him. And, if he was doing that to an empty stand, he'd look a bit weird, wouldn't he?
Yeah, exactly. And I remember interviewing Andy Robertson probably a month or two back now. And he just said, look, we're doing what we have to do. But he said, it's rubbish. Football without anyone in the ground is rubbish. And it is because, it's felt to me at times like you're watching training sessions rather than, absolute elite level sport. And it must have been so strange for the players being in that empty, completely soulless environment, but knowing that there's still tens of hundreds of millions of eyes on you all around the world. And not having that emotional attachment. And Liverpool players and fans have missed out on so much in 2020. As good and as special as winning the title was, you can't help but think, what it would have been like, that night against Chelsea, what it would have been like, the parade around the city. Even I remember going to the opening weekend this time around against Leeds and just thinking, this is so sad. Can you imagine Anfield on the opening day of a season when Liverpool are the reigning champions? It would have been incredible. So, and I think certainly that, you can sense already that, and I know the players talk about it, that is a source of massive motivation for this season to not only, the reward of defending their crown, but also let's hope, the world will be back to something resembling normality in May. So they'll be able to share those moments with the fans that they were, pretty cruelly denied last time around.
Yeah, I mean, Klopp said repeatedly, hasn't he, that whatever happens, there will be a parade. So, if Liverpool don't win the league, there will be a parade to celebrate the one they won. But I mean, it'd be brilliant, wouldn't it, to do a parade and basically be celebrating 2 league titles? Yeah,
and I think that probably has got to be. It would seem a bit weird to me to have a parade if Liverpool don't win it again. As much as I know Klopp said that there will be one, I think that was at a time when he had no idea that this would still be dragging on and on and on. So yeah, it was. I think the best possible way is, you get to celebrate titles 19 and 20 at the same time, come May. And I think if what we all hope that, if that does become a reality, then, even those scenes we saw in the aftermath of Madrid, I think would look like small fry compared to what the streets of Liverpool would be like if Liverpool retain their Premier League crown.
Yeah, be some pint that. I did a bit of a video diary at the weekend of my experience of going back to the ground, and that's being sewn together and put out there today. Obviously, I was on the Kop, so I'm sort of around people on the Kop, and I've got my perception of how that was. you're sort of middle of the main stand, aren't you, in the press box? How did it sound? How did the cop sound in terms of what, they did You'll Never Walk Alone? Obviously, they were singing songs. I think the Bobby one in particular went quite well because everyone was standing up and clapping. Did it sound loud from your perspective?
Yeah, it really did. I remember like turning to Neil Jones and saying to him that it just didn't sound like there was only 1,500 on the cop, because it was, you wouldn't have thought that so few could make so much noise, and it did really have an impact on the whole night. How nice was it as well to hear Liverpool score followed by a roar rather than song two by Blur blaring out. I think I got accused of being an old so and so for moaning about that, but
but it was shit. I was with you, mate. It was crap.
I didn't want to hear that anymore. So to hear a goal celebrated in the proper manner, and even better about the night was that I think everyone went away talking about the quality of the football and the atmosphere and the buzz of being back, and not moaning about VAR and TV scheduling, and talking about and seeing a smile on Klopp's face and the players' faces in terms of, it was like, how much have we missed all that?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so Midtjylland next then. It's a really weird game, isn't it, to be honest? I mean, it's what we wanted. We wanted Liverpool to have this dead rubber and a bit of a break. And, they've won the group. They've qualified. They're through. Midtjylland can't get through as well. So it's almost, there's literally nothing riding on it other than pride. Obviously, Klopp's just done his press conference there and said all the right things that you'd expect him to say. He's got respect for them. He wants to win. We're Liverpool and we always go out to win, that type of thing. But you'd be very surprised, wouldn't you, with the injuries that remain as well, taken into consideration, if he put out, an 11 that we sort of would recognise as being full strength, because it doesn't make any sense to do that, really, does it?
No, there's just absolutely no point taking any risks. So, no, he was keeping his cards pretty close to his chest team-wise. But I think what was telling was he said, I can't ignore our situation. He said, I think it's 6 games in the space of 20 odd days. And with the players we've got missing, we just can't afford to lose any more. So he said no one coming back into contention that's been out injured recently. But I'd expect him to make 9-10 changes. I think it'll be that great. I think there's a few senior fringe players who could definitely do with the minutes. You think of Origi, who Klopp confirmed wasn't injured at the weekend, just was left out of the 18. So you think probably not too many more opportunities going to be coming his way this season. So he needs to take this one. Minamino undoubtedly, I think, could do with 90 minutes. I think Tsimikas as well. Yeah. I think he nailed on to play at left back, and then it's just whether with the 5 subs, whether he just does decide what does Trent need 45 minutes just to sharpen up ahead of the weekend after his recent absence. Maybe even Naby Keita, even Jota obviously didn't only play 15-20 against his former club, but predominantly I think it'll be a very youthful team. I'm sure we'll see. I think probably Nico Williams may well be one of the few who does keep his spot, and then wouldn't surprise me if we see Kane and Clarkson in midfield, certainly if they don't start coming on, maybe even Cometio being involved as well for the first time. Reece Williams, you'd imagine, will start at centre half, because I'd be absolutely amazed if Joel Matip was anywhere near this game. So it's I just think although Klopp said it's still the Champions League, we're still Liverpool, we want to win. The reality is he'll have one eye already on, not just on Fulham on the weekend, but Tottenham in midweek, next week, because that is already an absolutely huge game.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think it'll finally be then? I mean, it sounds like from what you're saying, finally a rest for Gini Wijnaldum, because he plays. He just seems to play every single game, doesn't he? And has done now for a number of seasons. Obviously, great goal as well at the weekend. If anyone deserves a rest, it's him, surely.
Yeah, I'd be as relentless as Wijnaldum is. It would be a major shock if he was on that team sheet, just because I think Klopp admitted himself last week that he has asked a huge amount of Wijnaldum. I think it's for club and country. I look back and 11 successive starts in the space of I think just over a month, and where others have been rotated, because of the lack of options in midfield, with no Thiago, with Keita being out, with Oxlade-Chamberlain still on the road to recovery, Klopp just hasn't been able to rotate Wijnaldum, and it was ridiculous how well he played at the weekend, to be honest, because I thought he looked tired at times against Ajax, and you thought, has he really got another big performance in him? But he did, and he capped it off with an absolutely fantastic goal in front of the Kop as well. So he's a special player, Wijnaldum, which obviously is why there's so much debate and talk around his contract situation, because aside from his quality, he's so versatile, and you only have to look at his appearance record that shows how robust he is as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And is there any news on that at all, James? I'm sure you're asking the question all the time, but obviously with that performance at the weekend, everyone's talking about it. You look on social, everyone's saying, why aren't we getting him signed up? He can't go. And I think people are saying, maybe this is the one where, okay, FSG, Liverpool full stop, may have a certain policy around age of players, but surely this is one where that might be, worth breaking that policy.
Yeah, and I think, when he performs to that level, that is why I can fully understand the debate that I've seen in the last couple of days about, is he almost become an exception to the rule because he is so incredibly valuable to Liverpool, and you only have to hear Klopp talk to know how good their relationship, how valued Wijnaldum is, and how he wants him to stay. But it is I can see it from both sides, because it's I know people say just give him whatever he wants. Well, you can't give him whatever he wants. If you give him whatever he wants, Michael Edwards will have 5, 6, 7 other players and agents knocking at his door, going, well, hang on a minute, if he's getting that, why am I not getting that? So Liverpool don't make a habit of dishing out long, lucrative extensions to players beyond their 30th birthday. Obviously Wijnaldum turned 30 a few weeks back. But I can understand from his point of view, looking at just, hang on a minute, I've played a massive part in winning the Champions League. I've been integral to Liverpool winning the Premier League. I play virtually every game. What more do I have to do to kind of show that I deserve to be up there with the club's highest earners? And he obviously wants the security of not, a 1 or a 2 year extension, a 3 or a 4 year extension. So, to be honest, usually, I think history shows when it gets this close to a player being out of contract, it's very rare that it then gets resolved, in terms of him staying put, because I think, I don't think you have to be a rocket scientist to work out that already his agent will have some ridiculously lucrative deals on the table for next summer that he could potentially sign in January, that would involve, huge signing on fees because there's no transfer fee, and then, the wages to match that. But I still retain a glimmer of hope that that a compromise can be reached. I think it's just going to have to take a little bit of give from both camps, because I think, like most Liverpool fans, I really don't want to see Jorginho Wijnaldum leave Liverpool next summer.
Another midfielder that got a little shout from Klopp today, but a nice one was Curtis Jones. He said that he looked like he'd been playing for 10 years, and I think that's the conversations that I've been having with my mates and on the Anfield Wrap as well, is that it is easy to forget that he's only 19 years old and he's already performing at an elite level. He looks comfortable in the Premier League, in the Champions League, and also I think you can still see where there's room for improvements and there's still more to come. So we were all waxing lyrical about his performance against Wolves, but I think if you sat him down, he'd say, he had an opportunity there where he could have drove the ball a little bit more and had a shot, but he just he chewed it a little bit and didn't sort of make the decision quick enough. He's a real talent, isn't he? And I think everyone must be surely talking really highly about him behind the scenes at Liverpool.
Yeah, and I think when you speak to the staff as well, I think what's impressed them most about Curtis Jones is how much he's taken on board tactically and made those adjustments that they've asked of him, because I think anyone that's watched Liverpool academy football in the last 5 or 6 years will have known that this talent was coming through. That you think back to how well he performed when Steven Gerrard was in charge of the under-18s, and the ability was like never ever in question with Curtis. I think, sometimes you'd watch him and he'd almost like beat a man 3 or 4 times just for the sake of it, because he was so much better than the fella marking him. It was like, well, why not? And it was, but quite often there wouldn't be an end product, and you thought, wow, the quality's there, but that potential still has to be worked on. The rough edges have to be ironed out and all the rest of it. And you can see how much he's benefited from, working alongside not just elite players on a daily basis, but elite coaches with Pep Linders and Jurgen Klopp. And increasingly, he just looks like the full package. I think it is hard to believe he's only 19, the level he's performed at. And I think also physically, there's a big change in him as well. I remember when he made his first team debut, I think at Wolves in the FA Cup, and he looked like a boy playing a man's game that night and a bit lost, which happens with young players when they're thrown in at the deep end. But now you watch him and he just looks the part. He doesn't look like a teenage kid trying to make his way. He's always had that kind of self-confidence and swagger. But I think the big thing now is he's really got the kind of the football kind of intelligence, and and what he does off the ball as well as on the ball is obviously, we know, is so important to Klopp. So it just really whets your appetite about what he could go on to achieve. And having 2 Scousers in the team is just fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, they need to change that song, don't they? On what's happening on the Athletic then, James, obviously you, Si and Keeve are all there now. We're working on Liverpool stories and everything else. Any stuff coming up that we can look out for?
Yeah, well, I think probably the big piece I worked on recently that hopefully some people have seen and hopefully others will look for it is me and Simon did a big joint read on the scouting network at Liverpool, because I think obviously there's been a big focus on how they've got recruitment so right in recent years to put them back at the top of English football. So a fair amount of work went into that, putting together how the scouting network works and the processes involved. And then in the end, just in terms of the next few days, I've done quite a lengthy piece on social media and the way footballers use social media and the perils of it. I think we saw that with obviously the criticism hurt someone like Nico Williams earlier on this season, and how brilliantly he's responded to that. I thought how well he's played the last few games. So I've been speaking to various people about the kind of experts in that field in terms of the do's and don'ts and the positives and the negatives of social media. So that's one thing. And then also looking at the role of Vitor Matos, who's probably a bit of an unsung kind of hero in Liverpool's staff. And, I think, his role, deserves to be kind of looked at, especially with how well the young players have been performing, because, he's absolutely integral to making sure those young players, not just fit in terms of the football side of things, but they're there. Everything's okay with them and they're happy and they're settled off the pitch. So, I know he's been a big hit since he arrived from Porto, probably just over a year ago now. So there'll be a piece on him coming up soon as well.
Excellent stuff. Okay, well, look out for all of those things if you subscribe to The Athletic, and if you don't, consider subscribing. There's loads of offers kicking about right now. You can get it for really, really cheap, and it is worth it. I love it. There's always something on there worth reading. Check out also us at the Anfield Wrap, where we are offering gift subscriptions for Christmas, which we can send you an actual card, or we can send you a digital card if you forgot to get someone a present and you want one last minute. So check out that. We've got hats, mugs, t-shirts and stuff like that as well on the website, theanfieldwrap.com. And as ever, of course, we are doing podcasts and videos and writing before, during and after every single Liverpool match. So check all that out as well. But James, thanks very much for coming on today and talking about the Reds. It was great stuff as ever. Check James out on The Athletic. And yeah, let's hope the Reds do the business tomorrow night, whatever that mad team is that Jurgen Klopp puts out. Up the Reds.